Greetings, everyone, from lovely Boulderish, Colorado. I'm actually not in Boulder. But yeah, so thought it'd be fun to have a little surprise show for everybody from the hotel room here in Colorado. Alex is back home in the
Back in the
home base
woods.
of, yeah, in the woods. I just got back from spending the afternoon out in the wilderness. Enjoyed some time checking out Boulder Creek and some of the mountains and stuff around here. But thanks everybody for tuning in. I figured it'd be good to do a little Colorado chat. Alex has been doing his research because he's prepping his preview story, and um, yeah, it's been kind of interesting. We haven't had a chance to do a traditional preview yet. We've been running around like crazy, so I think uh, I think it's going to be an interesting game tomorrow. The first game's always kind of funky. Last year, remember Florida State played like basically their best game of the season in the first game of the season. Everyone has hope. Game one. So there's a lot going on. You have everything with Dion, all the stuff with obviously Coach Ross now being ill, and you know maybe getting some revenge for the 1990 team that got somewhat slighted on the fifth down thing by Colorado. You had Tom Osborne come out and say that he voted for Georgia Tech in the coaches poll, which they won by one vote. So that was kind of interesting. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a different flavor and vibe. Obviously, you have the Deion Sanders thing with his cancer. I hope he's doing well. Grew up like Brent Key, a fan of Deion and what he did, and watching him with the old Braves in the 1990s and seeing him play for both teams and all that stuff, playing for the Falcons and all that fun stuff. So it's a different vibe, but an interesting game. It's fascinating. They have never played before, and I think this is the first time I've covered a game in a current Big 12 stadium, other than UCF, BYU. I was gonna say I thought it was the first, but um, and I've been to Oklahoma, who's not in the league anymore, and I've been to Darrell Royal at Texas. So yeah, everyone's very funny. I went up to like 8,000 something feet today and didn't feel it at all. So like the altitude's not. I mean, it's not like I'm in some great shape. Y'all can see I'm not, and it wasn't bothering me as a 40-something-year-old man. So I'm not too worried about teenagers in the best shape, or 20-year-olds in the best shape of their lives in the game. But yeah, it's fascinating how this all plays out, and no one knows anything, right? Like, I think Georgia Tech's a favorite. There've been a lot of people picking them. Tech has so many pieces back. Colorado has tons of talent. Dion's done a good job there. They won 9 games last year. Didn't really have a high profile win, but they won a lot of the games on their schedule. I think their only bad loss was the loss at Nebraska, or to Nebraska. I wasn't sure if that was home or away. And then they got kind of boat raced in their bowl game. But um, I don't know. Like these first games are always weird, Alex. Did you watch games last week? I did. I mean, it seemed like
Yeah,
every game was very sloppy.
it was very sloppy. There was a lot of first weekend mistakes, and just kind of give you that Stanford Hawaii game to end the night was kind of wild. Stanford kind of just they were they were running down Hawaii's throat, just threw a pick and got bit. It was just so weird. Like I don't know. They're all, Stanford's in a weird spot right now with everything interim coach and Andrew Luck trying to put everything together. And but yeah, that Iowa State Kansas State game was weird already. Was the Dublin situation, but then it like poured down rain and nobody could hang on to the ball. And yeah, just first weekend things, but some huge games this weekend. I mean, I've been kind of locked in on Georgia Tech stuff, but I looked at the schedule earlier in the week and I didn't realize how many, like all the way through Monday. I mean, there's the two big games on Sunday afternoon and Sunday night, and I'm just hoping that Georgia Tech fans can enjoy the rest of the weekend after Friday and not. It'd be bad to lose on Friday and then have it would take the joy away, I think, from the first weekend. But hopefully they don't have to worry about that. So we'll see. Colorado's good. I mean, I think they're being undervalued a little bit. They do have a lot of different pieces, and with the portal, the way he uses it, like you never know how everything's going to fit. I think that's a big part of the first game. So they've
And
got
they
a lot
were.
of old.
I watched their first game last year. They played. Was it North Dakota State?
Yeah,
And North Dakota State had them beat and like kind of choked the game away. They just kind of ran out of gas. And Shador did some cool things, and Travis Hunter, and like they should not have won that game, and they played really poorly in the first game. And I think part of that is when you have a lot of new pieces that it's hard to get that acclimated. I think you saw that with um, defensively more last year for Georgia Tech. I thought the way they opened the game against Florida State was terrible on defense, and then they kind of got their footing and started playing well. After maybe two drives, they had two pretty bad defensive starts to the game, and then kind of got it going. So that's what you wonder about with all this. Everyone's going to have a level of nerves or butterflies or whatever. You don't know. The quarterback thing's interesting with Colorado with Caden Salter and Juju Lewis, and how they use those two guys. I'm sure both will play. I feel fairly confident that Salter's a good running quarterback, very athletic. Um, you know, had a little bit of actually kind of a down year throwing the football last year for him. Had been better, I think, before, but can move the football, good kind of leader of the program, that kind of thing. And then Juju's wildly talented. I've literally stood behind him at a 7-on-7 and watched him throw footballs, and he's a good dude at running an offense. Just really young. He should still be in high school, I think. And so,
yeah. He reclassified a year ahead. So I mean, he's a really good player. Like I've heard people say he was overhyped and everything. I mean, everybody knew about him since he was in the 8th grade, and I mean, I watched him several times over his high school year. Last year during the playoffs, he apparently had a broken hand, and he still led Carrollton to the state championship in the toughest, classification in the state. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of people on the Colorado side thinking that Salter's kind of the guy, and he's going to, stick around. But I'm not sold on that. I think that there's a reason they put so much into getting Juju out there. I think he's going to get to play sooner rather than later. So that's just my personal vibes from the thing, but who knows?
yeah, I don't think
Um,
you invest in that kid to sit him on the bench, like for the future. Like he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that would enjoy that either. So it's an interesting situation. Last year so much Shador played a lot, kind of like in that Cam Ward role where he could extend plays and stuff. You see it kind of working negatively in the NFL right now for him a little bit, taking some bad sacks and things on those habits. But that was a lot of their best plays was him extending things and finding Travis Hunter or Jimmy Horn or whoever like in the receiving game. They couldn't run the ball. Like they just had like no running game, and that's been a big focus, I guess, of what they're trying to rebuild is to have a solid running attack. Salter gives them a piece of that because of what he can do with his legs, and then they have injuries at the running back position and a lot of unproven guys. So that's a big other piece of this, and they have a big offensive line that their fans have been crowing about on social media left and right. It seems like this could be a quick game where you have two teams learning the football a lot, which would be kind of maybe the antithesis of what people would expect when you have two quarterbacks, and Haynes King is obviously on all these national watch lists, and then Caden, who's really good at Liberty. Is that what it looks like? I don't know. That's what's so curious to me is like I don't know what the plan is going to be for Colorado. Like, what is their plan of attack? I understand how you defend Georgia Tech. I understand sort of, but it's like Brent Key said in his press conference on Tuesday, you got to kind of just come out and play your base defense and then see what they give you. Because last year we heard so much about Florida State, and then they were like very different than what I think everybody expected. Hopefully the air conditioning's not too loud. Background
I,
just popped on.
I heard something rumbling in the background, and there was an earthquake out there or something.
But yeah, Alex, I mean, what have you learned? You've started doing your research on Colorado you're doing your preview piece in the morning, and you did a video with a Colorado guy for a podcast, and you did the star comparison today on the site on Jackets Online. Check us out if you want to learn more about that. Just what have you learned about Colorado through all this?
Well, I've learned that they're not short on talent. I mean that's obvious. He's gone out and gotten guys from SEC programs, ACC programs, pretty much everywhere that were pretty highly ranked across the country. They have very few guys that actually started at Colorado. This in the projected depth chart. We're kind of guessing because they didn't release a official depth chart. But I mean, I think they're going to be really good at receiver position again. Um, Even losing all those guys from last year, they've got several really talented guys, 4 and 5 stars, and um, offensive line should be improved. That's kind of what Shador had to do last year is kind of do it on his own a little bit because they were not the greatest in protecting him, and he was kind of running for his life, a lot last year. So he did it pretty well. But with Salter, I mean that's another question mark. If he does play the majority of the snaps, he's kind of shown two different. He wasn't very good last year. 2 years ago, he was pretty good. I guess he had a little better talent around him at Liberty 2 years ago than he did last year. But yeah, I don't know what you're gonna get with him, and that leads into me thinking that Juju's probably gonna get a bigger shot than most people think. On the defensive side, they've got a ton of like upperclassmen. They don't have a ton of guys that have experience in the Colorado system, but they've got guys that have played a lot of college football. So, like we said, it's about how they're going to kind of fit together, and you get to find all that out in the first game.
I mean, I think it's an advantage playing Colorado game week one when they're still maybe figuring out, especially offensively, what they're doing. And Georgia Tech knows what they want to do. They've had this plan together, really, other than Eric Rivers, who missed a lot of the spring. The pieces that are going to be key guys on offense were all there all spring, all the way through the fall. You have the majority of the offense are returning starters, except for or guys who played a lot last year, like Isaiah Canyon, who wasn't a starter but played a lot, especially in the second half of last year, or Harrison Moore played a good bit, and then you have guys like Ethan McKinney who started a lot of games, or Big Red at guard, and Joe Fusel, and you look around, Malik Rutherford, Jamal Haynes King, all those dudes have played a ton of football together, right? You're replacing your blocking tight end, and your right tackle, and your center, and then the rest of the offense is sort of pretty much the same, with Rivers swapping out for Eric Singleton, basically. So I feel like that's an advantage, but again, you'll see how it depends on how good Colorado's defense is. The one thing it's a disadvantage is Colorado has a good idea of probably what they're going to do offensively and how to use the different weapons and what they're going to do and the similarities with Rivers and Singleton and maybe how you force the ball to him the way they did with Singleton. So that's sort of the catch-22 there as well.
And they rushed the passer well. That's one thing that they led the Big 12 in sacks last year, and they've got some of those guys back. So I think having a guy like Haynes King that didn't get sacked a whole lot last year, I mean, good offensive line had part to do with that, but him being able to move around and avoid pressure a lot of times, that'll help with that. But that is one thing that is one of the kind of knowns with Colorado. When you're going into a game with a lot of unknowns, they will get after the passer, and so it'll be very important to, like we said, to establish running game early in the game. So you're kind of knocking them off balance and not getting stuck in third and longs where they can just kind of go get the passer, which is probably the best thing they do, or this is the best thing they did last year. So we'll see. I mean, that's one of my. I'm interested to see how the new pieces on Georgia Tech's offensive line kind of fit in with that, because they didn't hardly allow any sacks last year. So I don't know.
And Corey Robinson, the one thing Corey Robinson did really well at left tackle was pass pro. He struggled in the run game, but he was a very good pass protector, better than McKinney, who's replacing him at left tackle. But they played them interchangeably 2 years ago at left tackle, especially in the first half of the season before McKinney kind of hit that freshman wall. So yeah, it's interesting. Someone in chat asked about the defense and how it's gelling. I would say, schematically, it's going to be, I would think, a little bit different with Gideon doing it. But I think that the front sort of way you look at the defense, the front four will be very similar to what they did, just different personnel. Braden Manley, essentially replaces. He can play either end spot. I'm curious how they do that on Friday. Um, but essentially, he's your Romello Height type guy, right? Like the pass rusher, Kyle Kennard. And then you have, JJ back. You have Akila Stone coming back from Ole Miss. You have Matt Alexander as the third guy in that D tackle room. They look great. The end spot you have um, you have AJ Hoffler. You have Ronald Triplett. You have a bunch of different guys they can kind of mix in that have played some football at other places. That's kind of where I'm interested in is just what does a pass rush look like, and it should be better with Stone and Vandenberg inside. They're better pass rusher combo than what they were playing with last year with like Zeke and Machias and some of the guys that were maybe a little less fleet of foot inside. And then you get to linebacker, they're way deeper now. They're five deep, five guys that could all start a football game all the way from Eford to Tajay Butler, who's basically the fifth guy on their depth chart they released. And even Jackson Hamilton, who played a lot last year for them, is there's the sixth guy. So they got some options. The secondary is a big thing I'm curious about, and that's where Gideon's going to put his stamp on this thing, right? And they were not very good last year a lot of the time, and it was a little bit of a step back almost from how they played even the year before. And Amari Harvey didn't get his hand on as many balls as he would have liked, and was less productive in terms of getting interceptions and stuff that he wanted. The safeties were kind of a non-factor in a lot of games. That Omar Daniels played pretty well down the stretch, but like otherwise it was not great. Um, yeah, Alex saw the same thing I just saw in the chat, which we both of us chuckle. We'll get to that at the end. We'll get to predictions at the end here. We're not going to go super long. This ain't going to be an hour and a half show today, guys. Plan to keep this at 30 minutes the most. But yeah, it just the different pieces, right? You have Savion Riley from Colorado. You have Tay Harris, a super true freshman. This guy's playing with Clayton Powley and Omar Daniels pretty interchangeably, I think. And the other corner spot's the thing that fans have been worried about. Rodney Shelley, Zachary Toby, Daquan White, all kind of in that mix. Shelley's had a lot of injury issues going back to the end of last season. Toby played hurt last year a little bit. Daquan White came in and had a really good camp. I think the nickel spot will be better. I really like Jack Gilmore. I really like Kelvin Hill. I like those two dudes. I think they can both play really well. I just think I'm curious if the safeties can be more productive. I feel like that's been such a missed opportunity, and they've played with their backs to the ball so much. I think that's going to be something that'll be a little different with what they're doing now. They'll keep more things in front of them with Gideon, and Gideon wants them to be able to read what's going on better.
And I think Gideon's going to give a lot of different guys a chance to prove that they need to be on the field, because he's not going to. He's gonna let a lot of people play in the secondary. That's just the way he does things. The way he did at Texas. So they're going to use a bunch of different guys, and they're going to give guys a chance to prove that they should be out there, young, old, or experienced, or whoever.
We might see 10 different players in the secondary tomorrow night, which would be a far cry from what they did. I think you'll see, 4 safeties roll. You'll see 2 nickels roll. And I think you could see up to 6 corners playing, depending on who's healthy in the game. So, and that's where the altitude thing maybe gets negated a little bit, is you have the ability to sub guys out, and if they take a deep shot on Amari, Well, he can step off the field. They'll send another corner in. Like they didn't really have that luxury last year. To they basically played Warren Burrell and Mari Harvey as much as they possibly could. And
Yeah,
then
that's what I was telling somebody this week about the altitude thing. Is yeah, I mean it's a concern obviously anytime you play there, but two things are working in Georgia Tech's favor. They've got more depth on defense than they've had in a long time. That they can move guys in and out, and then I haven't looked at the updated weather report, but I'm assuming it's still not supposed to be like 90s. I think
I
it's
mean,
going
it's
to be
gonna
in
be
the
in the six, probably in
70s.
the
So,
60s at kickoff. I would think,
yeah, so
like
they're not going to
maybe
be dying out
70
there.
degrees.
Yeah, so not like you're going to be cramping all the time. And hopefully, I mean, I'm knock on this wood right here, but
I mean, I think it's more about just hydration. When you get into altitude, and it's something, even if you're just like, it's something I thought about yesterday, staying in a hotel or whatever. Like, normally flying and all that dries you out, and when you're at altitude, have to hydrate a little bit extra. Like, push yourself to drink more than you probably normally would. And that's just like for a general person. So you amplify that up when you talk about playing a football game or whatever. Um, so yeah, I think that, it's so hard, man. When you have like no tape to go off of with the team in this age of the portal, it is so different. People. I used to be able to write like we would write like capsules during the summer about other teams that were on Georgia Tech's schedule or whatever, and it's almost impossible to do that. Like, I could have somebody on and like have them talk about it, but again, most people don't care. Like, no one wants to hear a preview of Duke football right now. Like, or in the summer they weren't. I could have my friend Connor O'Neill covers Duke and Wake Forest. Have him come on and talk both those games, but y'all don't care. Like, you'll care about it the week of that game, but like, and then with Colorado, with so many different pieces, I think there was a lot of stuff people weren't even sure it was going to be the starting quarterback. So it was like, and then Dion has things kind of closed down, except for putting 20-minute practice clips up every day. I think their actual access is kind of limited. So um, it's different with every program, and this was one where there was less info. Last year, we got all this terrible information about Florida State and how amazing their defensive line was, and then you watch Georgia Tech push them like 5 to 10 yards off the ball every play, and I was like, okay, like I mean, we heard about it for weeks, man,
that's
weeks,
that's
like
what
how great they were, and then
I,
just watched them get pushed around.
that's I remember that like there was so much hype about them being so like the best in the ACC on the defensive and offensive lines, and they turned out to not be very good at all. So
They were bad at
that's
both of them. They were in the bottom half
yeah,
of the league in both, but their D line was okay. But like they could not run the football when once everyone figured out they had nowhere to throw it to, and DJU couldn't throw it to the outside anyways. You're not gonna have that problem with Caden Salter. I think I'm the biggest X factor to me in all this is Gideon calling his defense and being able to work with whatever Pat Shermer, I think is the OC at Colorado, whatever he does and however they try to attack. And it's that chess match piece of things that can be so interesting for these games. And the big thing with Gideon that will be good for them is he's going to mix his coverages. They have changed a lot of what they're doing in secondary. So I think there's a lot more in terms of even hiding looks and stuff pre-snap and not being so obvious in what you're doing in terms of your coverage, other than maybe some man-to-man. They'll play halvesies and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's where I'm curious. That's something I've been underwhelmed with really for a long time with Georgia Tech football defensively. It was just how vanilla the secondary was, and some of the things they were asking those guys to do that not playing to the strength of your personnel would be the way I would put it. And I think that Gideon, the one thing he looked at when he was there as he evaluated all the talent was figuring out, okay, what can our guys do? Can they do this? Can they do that? And trying to figure it out. So it'll be interesting. And there's going to be some big plays given up, and how do you punch back? How do you handle those momentum swings? Is Haynes King going to be as good at protecting the football as he was last year, which was um, one of the best in the country, which was different than um, what he was previously? Um, those are all really vital questions, and no one wants to win this game more than Brent Key and Haynes King. I can tell you that. Haynes King had a really terrible experience playing his last time in Colorado in Mile High Stadium where he got hurt and lost for the season. So I think he wants to come out and have a better showing out here too. And I don't know, on paper it looks like it's a good advantage for you know Georgia Tech, but we'll see, man.
Yeah, I just want to see a healthy Haynes King, and I don't think people realize he was hurt. He was hurt pretty much all year. I mean, it kind of came to light in that North Carolina game, but he was hampered
They
before
were
that.
they were protecting him throwing the football all the way back to the spring. Like they were resting his shoulder and like I don't know whether that was all like totally correlated or not, but like there was a long period of time where he was having issues throwing the ball vertically down the field. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him and how much better. It looked fine and we're at practices or whatever all fall and in the spring even throwing the football downfield. So I'm interested to see how he looks, how the offense looks, what the new weapons look like. They have like 6, 7 wide receivers they really like now. They were basically at 4 most of last year that they actually were comfortable playing, and then got to 5 and eventually sort of 6, but not really at the end of the season. And I was talking to a buddy and he was telling me that like around the program that they would have to like think about play calls with personnel and stuff with the receiver. They're getting away from all of that now. So they're pretty wide open. Um, so yeah, I'm curious. I think we'll kind of transition here into um, I guess giving some predictions on the game. Um, Alex, I'll let you
Okay.
go first. You can, as the guy who bleeds gold and white. I won't say navy. Um, as
Yeah.
the wait, whoa, hold on, time out. Before I forget, gotta find it. Let's take a second here and remember our friends at Section 103 who help sponsor and bring you guys this show, other stuff that we do. Georgia Tech fan gear. They're doing some LSU stuff now, apparently. Great dudes. You got the Brent Key hoodie there. It was funny. There was a guy wearing the Brent Key hoodie at Brent Key's radio show that they showed a picture of. That was very funny. Like totally decked out with the white hat with the gold GT and Brent Key and the sunglasses. It cracked me up, man. Like seeing that dude looking all serious. He was like tatted up Brent Key, only a little bit younger, I think. But Section 103, great place to get it. Alex is a huge fan. Um, yeah, if you want Georgia Tech gear and you don't want to support like big corporations and stuff, that's the way to go. Section 103.
And they just came out with a new line of polos this week that look very good. That probably gonna use some money on myself, but they just keep coming out with good stuff, good hats, good polos, everything. So, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go first. So we'll give our final score
I
predictions.
uh I kind of gave it away on our JOL ACC staff picks today when I put them on there, but I picked Georgia Tech to win 33-24. I think it's going to be I think there's going to be some scoring early on and until both defenses kind of settle in but I think Georgia Tech's got more depth on offense and they've got a more proven quarterback and um, I just think they're going to make a few more plays there. And so I picked 33-24 Georgia Tech. So they win and they cover.
I am thinking it's going to be a little more lopsided than that. I don't have a lot of confidence in my pick. I went 30-17, Georgia Tech. I think that there'll be some growing pains Colorado's offense a little bit as they kind of figure it out against another defense. That's always a kind of learning curve piece. I think Buster Faulkner's done a really good job of uh, coming up with game plans for different defenses, right? Like whether it's Georgia or Florida State last year, having a plan that makes sense for his personnel. He has some weapons he likes better now. So how does he attack differently? Like he's played more. He played more conservatively last year, but some of that was Haynes King's shoulder. Are they more aggressive? You have one of the things we haven't talked about yet is just having a healthy Jamal Haynes and like how different he is. Health is a relative term, right? Everybody's banged up, going into the early part of the season, but seeing how different Georgia Tech was when he was healthy and that ability to have that home run threat out of the backfield, having the depth they have at running back with Trelane Maddox and Malachi Halsey and Dalen Gordon, like all dynamic in their own ways. I just feel like this is the best Georgia Tech team I've covered in terms of talent since 2014, which was a really special season for the Jackets. Does that mean that I think that, does that automatically mean they're going to have this great season and be in the Orange Bowl and all this other stuff? No. But like, does that mean they have the potential to do stuff like that? Absolutely. This is a really talented team. And I think that having that and figuring out how to get there is part of the process. And that 2014 team had two really bad losses that season in the middle of the year to Duke and Carolina that derailed maybe what could have been even a specialer season for them. And overcame kind of having a mediocre defense and that was really good at timely interceptions and stuff. I feel like this team's probably more spread out. I don't know that they're going to be as elite offensively as that team was, but they have the potential to have a special season. And I think that's why you see Brent Key's a little more amped up about things. His expectations are ratcheting up, and I think that's kind of the vibe around the program. Someone asked about the vibes here in Boulder, but mostly I just saw a bunch of Georgia Tech people and then Colorado students today. I didn't see a lot of Colorado fans. Obviously, their fans probably don't travel in on a Thursday or whatever for a Friday game. They're probably living in the Denver area and just come over for the game or something. And we're working, especially with the holiday weekend coming up. So bear that in mind as well. Yeah, I haven't necessarily seen a bunch of Colorado people yet. So their Twitter first seems very confident. It reminds me a lot of like some of the other Miami or UCF Twitterverse, which is maybe not the most flattering thing to say, but they're very into it. They're very into Dion, at least the people that we see getting in our mentions and stuff. Very Dion centric. So
They've been very quick to look at the press conferences on YouTube. They
trying to find the glimmer of Fran Brown bait, like
I
chum.
mean,
To
the comments on the YouTube Georgia Tech press conferences have been kind of crazy. They are very confident, so they're good for them. That's what you want in an opening game. You want a little bit of steam on it. You don't want to,
Oh, Nico, I appreciate that comment so much. That made me laugh. I'm not going to say it, but I appreciate it because it's something I thought about as well. But yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We don't want to give you an hour and a half of whatever today, but we'll, depending on how things go tomorrow night, we might jump on tomorrow night or Saturday. I'm flying back on Saturday. I have a layover in the ATL airport where I might be able to jump on, or we might do it tomorrow night, depending on how things go, how we're all feeling, how long it takes to get back from Folsom Field to my hotel and all that stuff, and how things are going for Alex. So appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Thank you so much. Thanks Section 103 for sponsoring, and hopefully we'll be talking to you about a Georgia Tech win and some revenge for the 1990 national championship debacle.
Yeah, let's settle that one once and for all.
Yep. And until they play again, don't they play again next year in Atlanta?
Yeah, come down to Atlanta. Best of 3 series.
All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a good night.